Today we sit down with Ali Clarke, who's been on the Adelaide media scene for over 20 years. You may best know Ali from her #1 radio shows, including Mix 102.3, Triple M and the ABC. Ali shares with us her tips for improving your presentation skills and her personal insights into how to debunk some of the worries that you may have.
Ali, can you just explain to us what your career journey's been and what exactly you're doing now?
Yeah, sure. It's been completely accidental. That's probably the best word to use. I went to uni, did a sports science degree and honours degree, but then moved down here for love and, didn't have a job. So I was teaching Learn to Swim and doing all these little things, and then ran into somebody that I knew in the Stag Hotel at 3 a.m. in the morning where all good decisions are made. And they said, oh, look, have you ever, we've got a job going in sales and radio. So I thought, oh, well, I'll give that a go. And halfway through the interview, she was looking at me and I was looking at her and I said, well, this isn't working. She said, no, you are not for sales. So then headed down the corridor to run their events and hand out the icy cold cans of Coke and the hot Balfour's pies. So started in radio and had no intention of being on air, but accidentally ended up on air. And that's kind of been it. I've just said yes to everything that's sort of come my way and worked out how to do it later. And then along that, just to sort of keep the mental stimulation going, did a couple of boards, served on them. Did the company directors course, got fired from commercial radio. So I did a Cert 4 in building and construction just for something different. And then, back into it. So now I've stepped away from the broadcasting and now I'm looking at consultancy. I've been in media and communications now for 25 years. So teaching people how to actually be able to sell their message so that people actually listen.
So Ali, what do you love most about what you do?
It's connection for me. It really is. And it's about stopping and listening to what somebody else is saying and being interested in them. And I think no truer saying is everybody has a story, and they do. We all have a story somewhere in our past, and I just love being able to help somebody tell their story. I feel incredibly uncomfortable in this seat because normally I'm over there. And, this is quite freaky for me. But I think it's finding that connection. And I think increasingly as we start stepping away from people and we retreat into the social and the internet world, I think connection is so important at the moment. And so that's what I love.
Ali, when you worked in radio, was it as simple as just sitting around and having a chat and playing the music you like, or was there a little bit more to it?
Okay, so I've got to let you in a secret. We don't choose the music. All right, those days have gone. That's all done by computers and even almost a maths sort of equation as to what they should play. No, it's not. It looks like it is, and no, without a doubt, we're not curing cancer and we're not finding the meaning of life, but it's all about identifying a target market and then developing a product and then being able to refine that product and attract those people. It's a little bit different on the ABC because I was in commercial radio and then I was in public broadcasting, and one great old broadcaster, Grant Cameron, said to me, look, the difference between the two is when you're on commercial radio, if people don't like you, they'll just switch off, your ratings will dive and then you'll get fired. But on the ABC, if people don't like you, they'll tune in every day just to tell you that they don't like you. And that's pretty much how it rolled. That was pretty much how it rolled. But we'd have meetings before the show to look at what was going on. You'd go through the program itself and then you'd analyse what had happened and then start planning for the next show and the next weeks ahead.
Ali, can you explain to us what leadership looks like in radio and media and how it has changed over the past 20 years?
It's a really interesting one. I can't lie. I've been in radio organisations that really struggle with leadership, and I think perhaps for a long time there it's because the people who were put in the leadership positions actually weren't good at managing people. They were very good at crafting radio. They were very good at content directing and everything else, but they didn't know how to lead a team. For a long time there, most of my days I was the only woman in the room. Maybe it would definitely be women on the sales side of things, but certainly in the programming and content. So that's where all the show decisions are made and entertainment decisions are made, they were pretty much all blokes. So, yeah, I think my role in leadership has certainly changed. I would have been horrible to work with in my first job because I'd never been on air, and all of a sudden I got thrown on in a capital city radio network. We didn't even have producers, and so I was very nervous, and I would have been horrible to manage. But as, I've grown, and my understanding of what I think works and my confidence to actually try to ask for that and demand that, I've ended up being probably the leader of the last few teams that I've been around.
Ali, what learnings can you share from your career to date, and how do you think they apply in a business or in an organisation, the types of organisations that we work with?
Wow, where do you start? I mean, I learned everything because I didn't, I think there is massive power in saying yes. I think that's a really, really, really important thing, to be able to give yourself a chance to actually have a go at something. But you can only really do that well if you are in a team culture that understands that we say yes, we might make mistakes, but we'll learn from them and then we'll move forward. So I think finding and actually understanding the environment that you're in and really feeling comfortable in it is important. And also recognising when you're not in that environment, when you are in an environment that if you put your head up, you'll probably get shot as such. I also think that there is power in saying no. And I find I've really struggled to say no for a long time, and I still do. But having that sense of what your values are and having that sense of what's important to you. I mean, in my early days of radio, I did all sorts of stuff that I look back now and I just cringe, and even in this last gig I've done, some of the stuff they were asking me to do was just horrendous. I ended up having to say in one meeting, if you guys do that, I won't be part of it and I'll leave that segment. I probably would have gone ahead with it about 10 years ago. So I think that all comes from recognising and understanding the culture that you're working in and being really open and honest and true to yourself about what's important. And then that gives you that power to say yes and no to the important things, I think.
How do you adapt or tailor your communication style to suit different audiences?
Yeah, you got to know your audience, right? I mean, how many times have we been to something where maybe an academic will get up and you just sit there and go, I have no idea what you're saying. It is all about identifying your audience. So, for example, if I ever go and speak, I'll always ask and say, well, who's likely to be in the room? Where have they come from? What can you tell me about them? Because then you can actually work through what it is you're about to say and find the best way to do it. So I think that piece of information gathering is really important. But also, and yeah, this is it, and this is the world we're in. And I'll give you an example, and hopefully it's not like this in business just yet, but getting people's attention is increasingly hard. Well, no, getting people's attention is okay, but keeping people's attention is increasingly hard. An example I'll show you, if you go and listen to mainstream pop music at the moment, there are no intros on any song, right? TikTok and all of these things have turned us into people who consume so much, but we give you 30 to 40 seconds and that's it. So finding a way that you can actually get someone's attention and then keep someone's attention. And the way that I do that is I always think, right, they're sitting there going, well, what's in it for me? So if you identify who those people are and who your audience is, you can then work around how whatever you're about to say will give them something that they can walk away with. And that's kind of where I start crafting whatever it is that, we're going to do.
What are some of the biggest mistakes you see in communication?
Mm-hmm. Not telling the truth and not being authentic. They're the biggest things in the world. And I see that, in the run up to the election, politicians do it all the time. Footballers are great ones for it. Unless you are authentic, people can see through whatever you are trying to say. And the other thing is you can never hide the good stuff. It will always come out. How much more would you respect a politician if they were asked a question at a press conference and the politician said, okay, that's a really important question. I want to make sure that I get the right answer to you. So give me 5 minutes and I will come back with you to you with that information. See, I would respect that so much more. How much more would you respect a footballer or whoever if they came out and said, yeah, man, I completely stuffed that up. I'm really, really sorry for how it all unfolded, but that's on me and I need to accept those. That's so different to how you see so many people that communicate. They're in that protectionist sort of mode, and 9 times out of 10, they have 18 media managers and minders behind them telling them what to do. So they sort of get, paralyzed by all, that paralysis by analysis. So that would probably be the biggest mistakes that I see, and you can spot it from a million miles.
So, Ali, what are 3 tips you would give business leaders that they could use right now to enhance their communication within and around their businesses?
Number 1, listen. All right, listen. And that might be listen to your staff members, listen to your gut. It might be listen to the information that you're actually going to be given as to who your audience would be. So that would be 1. Consistency, I think, is absolutely key. I think we've all probably been in those examples where, you might even go for a day of teamwork and, in the back of your head you're going, well, this will be great, but we're never going to hear anything about it, right? Or they'll hand down a new way of communicating and then it just kind of disappears into the ether. And I think increasingly now, concise, making sure that what you're actually giving is information that is needed. I think we also are in the habit of being wallpapered with stuff from everywhere, right? We get it from, the TV shows that we're watching, our emails every second day, our texts. I mean, God, if I get one more spam election notice, I'm going to go spare. So actually making it really, really concise and to the point, I think, is really, really powerful as well.
So, Ali, in our world, I guess the business world, LinkedIn and social media are prevalent.
Yeah.
Do you have any tips and, I guess, tangible takeaways for how to communicate best in that space?
Yeah, it's really hard, isn't it? And social media is a skill and it's a really time-sapping skill. Again, I get onto LinkedIn quite a lot, and a lot of the times I don't actually understand what I've just read. I think people, especially on LinkedIn, get caught up into the whole world, word salad of consultancy figurations and what, all these words that are buzzwords in your industry.
Yeah.
But so what? I think a lot of people concentrate on trying to sound smart instead of actually getting their message across in an authentic way. And I compare it, I see the way that you guys talk, that's something that you pride yourself on, is that authenticity and that one-on-one bespoke approach you have with your clients. Well, that's how it should be represented on LinkedIn. It would be strange to me if I got onto your LinkedIn and saw you presenting like one of the big 4, which is just all corporate, whatever it might be. So the other thing is actually giving it time to do it. And it's all well and good, I guess, to chuck up a post here and chuck up a post there, but it's scientific. It really, really is. So the coolest thing that you can do, honestly, get onto AI and just ask AI even, just, if you don't have your own researchers, which a lot of people don't, and find out when the premium times for you guys, or for your organisation to actually post. And then that way you can actually have it targeted. And then the other thing to that, once you do it, stick around for a bit. Just have your notifications on so you can actually integrate and interact with the notifications as they come through. Because what you want is to post something that has all those interactions that then gets you into the algorithm. It gets you pushed up to the top of everyone's feed more and more and more. And that's the only way you can do it. Posting and hitting, you may as well just let it go because, it comes back to that wallpaper of information.
So, Ali, can you share with us some of your tips around body language, specifically in terms of receiving and giving communication?
Yeah, okay. See, this is really funny because I find this comfortable. Yeah. You know what I mean? And that is like the traditional, don't ever do that if you want to communicate. I reckon that actually the biggest tip is devices. That's the one. Yeah. Like if I walk into boardrooms and you've all been it and you're in meetings, even if people put their phones upside down, it sends that message still that they're open to something else as opposed to really concentrating and listening on what you're doing. And I also think that sometimes too, with so many of us taking notes on our laptops, that can be quite a divisive, you've got that screen, in front of you. As for, I guess, for people who might not feel overly confident in it, it's more, I think, and I know it sounds stupid and it might sound, but it's actually about physically taking your space. And I walk into plenty of rooms that I'm nervous. So what I do is I have a prop. So I'll walk in and just holding a pen or something like that. And I can then I plant my feet and I go, yep, no. And you look around the room and you go, well, why shouldn't I be here? And then I'll just hold on to that pen. And you'll see me when I present that I'll always start with a prop in my hand and, something that I can't click and annoy people with, but just something that I know that I can just hold on to and ground. Otherwise, what happens is that you fidget and you cross your legs or you play with your hair or you do whatever else. And then that just, keeps me a bit centered. I don't know if that works for everybody, but that's certainly my tips.
Thank you, Ali, for sharing your insights today. We really appreciate it. If you'd like to hear more of our podcast, head to our Spotify account or visit us at elevatemc.com.au.